I think you might notice a little bit of a different voice right now leading you off. That is because Yehuda, the original guest star.
You're not a guest. You're one of us. We have to be switching our whole name because of you.
No, don't give away our secrets.
But you knew, like, the Ravens need one touchdown. Like, the Broncos might score one more field. So if you get one more touchdown,
Yeah, you went 10-9 call it a day.
you can win 10-9.
I'm going to go with the Commanders as well, just because it's too much of a question mark over there under center for the...
I can't believe you saw that right now.
That's asinine. You're crazy.
He's
You're
got the
crazy.
full package. He's
No
got
way.
The speed.
I don't care.
Jump
No way. I can't even. It's hard to even look at you right now when you say something like that. That's crazy. Okay. And guess what? In basketball, you use a basketball. In football, you use a football.
Welcome to Dummies for Sports. After Super Wild Card Weekend, we're digesting that. We just experienced that. We watched some lots of blowouts, honestly. Maybe one good game, but two or three surprising games, I would say. And to start off, the first game that was a little surprising, not necessarily that the Texans won over the Browns, but the manner of which they did it, beating them by almost 30 points, 45-14. And if you'll remember, those of us on the smart guys on this podcast, you know, Rocky, Meisty, Feisty,
That's right.
Feisty, and I, of course, almost forgot myself there. We love the Joe Flacco narrative, and we love Joe Flacco, but we said this is a little fluky, and there's still some interceptions. And then, unfortunately, Rocky, we saw those interceptions. They reared their ugly head.
Yeah, and there's no question. I mean, listen, we love the Flacco story. We all loved it, and it was fun while it lasted. And, Joe Flacco has a special place in all of our Baltimoreans' hearts. Obviously,
Yes.
That was one of the funnest playoff runs. It was the funnest playoff run for us so far. Hopefully this year we'll get something better. But so far, that playoff run was magical. There were some magical plays in there, some beatdowns, some close games. And so we love Flacco. But at the same time, we didn't want to play the Browns next week. We wanted no part of that number one defense. We wanted no part of that random, Joe Flacco just slinging the ball down the field and, completing 50, 60-yard passes to Njoku. And we both saw the collapse coming, potentially at least, and it did. He started off the game pretty well, but after a certain amount of time, things started to catch up to him, and, all of a sudden, the Texans brought an interception the other way. The next drive, the Texans bring another interception the other way, and that was all she wrote, right? I mean, at that point, the Browns were inching ever closer. They were down by 10. Granted, the Texans sort of had control of the game until then, but that was the turning point of the game. Throwing that pick six halfway through the third quarter, go down by 17. They could never quite rebound from that. So there's no question that it was fun to watch while it lasted, but the Joe Flacco experiment failed insofar as getting the Browns another playoff win over here.
Yep.
Meisty. Okay, you no, because it's
Yeah, sorry.
The camera switched a couple times. It's all good though. We're good now.
Yeah, sorry, I got someone clicked in. Sorry about that. Multiple phone calls, and I apologize.
Busy man over here.
Yeah, he's got lots going on.
Yeah. No, sorry. I mean, obviously we like we said it, and I really was rooting for Joe Flacco, and hoping that he would do something, just because I think it would have been really cool to see him come to Baltimore.
Yes.
But I think, like we said, also I said last week, I think the Texans are the more exciting team. C.J. Stroud is super exciting. Now, I may be a little biased because he's coming to Baltimore, but I think even if he was going to if he was going to Kansas City or Miami, wherever, I still think that he's not. It's a wild card game. You played the Browns, relax. Let's not get ahead of ourselves. But the Texans really just whooped Joe Flacco. I mean, they really took advantage of every aspect they could.
The thing with the Browns defense also that I think Cleveland fans did not really want to acknowledge was that they beat up on really bad teams at home. And the last time they played the Texans, they beat them 30-6. And they were on the road They're in Houston, but they played Case Keenum and Davis Mills. Like they did not play C.J. Stroud, and Bobby Slowick and the Texans offensive coordinator was absolutely cooking them with these motions and these sweeps and everything. And these guys were running wide open, and C.J. Stroud looked awesome. Did not look like a rookie. And then, if if your defense is not playing up to the level that it does at home, then you have to have your quarterback step up. And unfortunately, Joe Flacco did not. And these interceptions that he was throwing, I expected one, maybe two interceptions. I did not expect two pick sixes. And so, like we said, they could not come back from that. And it ends a fun story, but Joe Flacco's still a Raven at heart. Had to get the Browns out in the first round. Did the Ravens a solid.
Yeah,
but then
I'll also add, I mean, you mentioned the big plays. The Browns have always been prone to big plays the entire season. They're not the type of team you're going to methodically drive down the field. That's been right. But they can give up the big play. And you mentioned Bobby Slowick. They call him PFF Bobby because he's a former PFF employee. He just turned PFF employee, turned offensive coordinator this year. Just a fantastic job. We're going to get to Jordan Love soon. But, I think that's the difference between C.J. Stroud and Jordan Love here. Is that C.J. Stroud played well. I don't want to take anything away from him. Like you said, played like a pro, 16 for 21, only 5 incompletions, 3 touchdowns. But, you saw that Dalton Schultz touchdown. I mean, he's sitting there wide open. There's no one within 20 yards of him. Bobby Slowick just did such a fantastic job scheming these guys open down the field, whether it was Nico Collins, whether it was Dalton Schultz, getting so many different guys involved. And, I really think the game ball should go to Bobby Slowick. He really confused this Browns defense, and he exploited their one weakness that they've had all year, which was giving up the big play. So credit to C.J. Stroud, but I think even more credit to Slowick and those boys.
He definitely did himself a good service if people are looking at him as a potential head coach. He definitely showed up. But then on to the night game on Saturday, we got Dolphins Chiefs in the 4th coldest game in NFL history. I think it began at -4, ended up around -7, -8, and then we got -25, -30 with wind chill. Like that was, I think, the most obvious outcome I could have predicted of the playoff weekend. Maybe you could say Bills Steelers, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But you're not having a team come from Miami from 70 degrees. Literally, they lost in Week 18, cost themselves the division in not a collapse, but like a slow moving. Kind of gave up the division and not the best fashion. Gave up the division to the Bills. And now they have to go on the road into -25-degree weather, and they're 0 for 11 in their last games, their last 11 games under 30 degrees. Like we saw, they were not going to show up. And Tyreek Hill didn't go ballistic. I said the only way that they have a chance is if Tyreek Hill goes ballistic. And he did catch a touchdown. He had that big play, and I was like, oh, is this it? Is he about to start going crazy right now? But no, they pretty much contained him after that. And the Chiefs offense, I got to say, Meisty, the Chiefs offense, they stalled. Their defense played great for sure, but defense is expected to play great against a team from Florida that's not playing in -25-degree weather. I think they had 4 or 5 field goals. They did not finish touchdown drives. And you could say maybe Mahomes is like, oh, okay, it's fine. I know my defense is going to show up, but you're not showing up. Meisty, this offense is not showing up. And you can't do this against the Ravens or even the Bills or even the Texans.
No, so I definitely hear. I think that we can. I'm going to factor that the cold weather definitely played some part on that stall on the offense. Harder to catch the ball. Guys were just freezing their ass off, So, yeah. So the bottom line here is that Mahomes, the way he got through the season is he's always just been doing enough, and right. We talked about close games, always in close games, and I think here we are again. He's just going to do enough constantly. Now he gets to play the Bills. That's a high-powered offense. There's no room for these small errors.
Yeah,
we'll talk about that obviously when we get to the Bills Chiefs game. But yeah, this was as obvious as it came. Chiefs, Dolphins, everything. I mean, dude, they were frozen, and it made no sense. It almost made no sense for the Dolphins to even show up. It was just stupid. I mean, maybe if Bradley Chubb was there and whatever the safety, maybe things are a little different. But it didn't really matter. They got picked apart on offense there. The Chiefs were swarming them. The Chiefs came to prepared for that cold weather. This was as obvious as it comes.
Yeah, listen, I actually have a little bit of a different take. I think this had less to do with the weather and more to do with the fact that the Dolphins have been unable to beat teams of a higher caliber the entire season, right? I mean, if you look at Steve and I sort of had a little duel about this the other week really, and if you look at the 4 losses the Dolphins suffered on the road, it has less to do with the fact they were on the road and more to do with the fact those 4 losses were against their 4 toughest opponents of the season. It was the Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, and I can't remember the 4th one. But
Ravens.
And Ravens. Very good, right? Bills, Chiefs, Eagles, and the Ravens. There you go. So that's all you had. Right. Already forgetting. That's the most recent one too. So already forgetting about that. I mean, and to be honest, I mean, Week 18 Sunday night against the Bills, this was a similar offensive output to what they did Saturday night against the Chiefs. So I think it just has to do with, for whatever reason, the Dolphins feast on bad teams, and that's valuable, guys. We're gonna get to the Cowboys, and that's the similar concept of the Cowboys. They feast on bad teams. Dak Prescott, if you just take away his 4 or 5 games against higher caliber opponents this year, he is the best quarterback in the league, and it's not even close this year. It's not. He's a runaway MVP candidate, right? That is valuable to beat up on bad competition, and I think the Dolphins do that very well as well. But for some reason, they come up in these games against the Chiefs and against the Bills and against the Ravens. In those games, they fall flat. They fell flat twice against the Bills this year, against the Chiefs, against the Ravens, against the Chiefs twice this year, and against the Ravens. All the good teams that they had to beat, they didn't show up, and it ended up costing them their season Saturday night.
I love that you brought that up, the Cowboys, because that obviously is an amazing segue. But also, we literally had the Can't Beat Good Teams Bowl in the Chiefs, in Cowboys Dolphins, and they met each other. And the Dolphins were able to win, and then they're like, oh, see, maybe the Dolphins can beat good teams.
That's the best part.
Yeah, but then we see that maybe the Cowboys aren't that good of a team. And we saw what, obviously, everyone in America loved to see, and what Cowboys fans don't understand, why everybody loves to hate them. But the Cowboys get absolutely shellacked, and you could see even the announcers were saying it. The Fox announcers were saying, "What's going on with CD? What's going on with Dak?" And their body language, they looked scared after one drive. It was crazy. It was 7-0, and they're already looking nervous, and they're like, oh, no, here we go again. You're at home. You haven't lost in literally 2 years. They had not lost since September of 2022, right? Literally 2 years, 2 full seasons. The last time they lost, it was the opener in 2022, and you go out and you're playing the 7 seed. You're the 2 seed. This is, it's like a bye week. Okay, you won the division. The Eagles collapsed, and they lost the division, so now you don't have to go on the road. The Cowboys, you're so much better at home. You're playing the 4th youngest team, or one of the youngest teams ever in the playoffs, and their defense is terrible, right? Everybody hates Joe Barry, and their scheme, and CD Lamb's going to go for 200 yards, and Dak Prescott, MVP candidate, is playing awesome. And then they just absolutely collapsed. They want to talk about that was a collapse and a humongous choke job. And Rocky, I could not see this coming. I mean, it is pretty funny that it happens. I love the reactions to all this, but I genuinely did not see this coming, and I don't know how this happened. How did this happen, Rocky?
Yeah, no one likes this more than Stephen A. Smith, right? He's been having a party yesterday and today, so he's been having an absolute party. This is his moment. This is what Stephen A. was hired by ESPN to do. When the Cowboys lose, this is exactly what he's there for. It's hard to explain. The Cowboys, 12 wins 3 years in a row. And it's not like for a lack of talent. They had a top 10 defense in the league this year. They had one of the best quarterback to Dak Prescott to CeeDee Lamb. There are a few passer ratings, quarterback to receiver connections in the league higher than that this year. There's Purdy to Debo. There's a couple others, but there aren't many. So it's hard to know why those guys, like you said, were just off sync, why the defense was just getting obliterated. And man, Jordan Love off his back foot. I mean, he's making all these throws. He's looking like Mahomes Jr. over there. It's just absolutely crazy. I think the Packers have their recipe to success. Just draft a guy in the first round when you still have a few years left in your veteran quarterback, sit him on the bench for 3 years and let him rip when he comes out, right? And all it took was Jordan Love 7 or 8 games to sort of get into the groove of things. It wasn't a pretty start to the season for Jordan Love. People forget. But man, he's just down the stretch. He has been, I think, the second highest rated quarterback in the league according to PFF since week 10. So it's been a run for him, and it's exciting to see. I think a lot of people are appreciating the prospect of Jordan Love going up against the Niners next week, even though nobody really expects the Niners to lose. The Niners have a clear path. But let's talk about for 1 second. We gotta. This might be the easiest path I've ever seen for a team to have. Not that anything in the NFL is easy. Not that anything in the NFL is easy. And Jordan Love's playing out of his mind. But the Packers have a bottom 10 defense in the league. And they are playing with a lot of rookie receivers, a lot of unproven receivers that have made plays throughout the season, but you don't know how they're going to show up week to week, right? For the Niners to have that in round 2, and then either the Lions or the Bucs in round 3, they're both, the Lions are a good team, don't get me wrong, but they're way inferior in talent to the Niners. It's not even close. Like, the Niners, and if they get the Ravens in the Super Bowl, that'll be their tough game. Even if they get the Bills or Chiefs. I mean, any of those will be tougher than, So this got to be the easiest road to the Super Bowl for any team. But listen, people are appreciating the prospect of Jordan Love going to San Fran next weekend, and we'll see how it plays out. It'll be fun to watch. I don't expect, I guess we'll get to our predictions when we get to the previews, but, it's going to be hard to see the Niners losing this game, but it'll be fun to watch nonetheless.
This is not just a disaster. This is atrocious. It starts from Jerry Jones has to sell the team. Someone has to come in and just literally fire him.
Lean back a little more so you're more in the screen. Like lean back. Yeah, there we go. We're good.
This is serious business.
Yeah, because we need this is like our Stephen A moment right here.
Yes. It's not even a Stephen A. No, this is real. Stephen A gets paid. Okay, I don't even get paid to do this.
Yes,
okay? This is real.
7 cents an hour.
It's true. This comes. I'm gonna sue the Dummies for Sports for all 8 cents that they have. No, this starts from the top. Jerry Jones has to sell the team. I mean, he's been probably one of the worst owners. Like, he brings in talent. Dude, they held on for Tony Romo for way too long. They held on to Garrett way too long. They held everyone way too long. They reach onto a player. Every year we talk like, oh, is this the year for the Cowboys? Nope. It's like delusional. It's literally like the Pittsburgh Steelers since Big Ben has left. It's like, well, this is the year, and then they sneak into the playoffs because they have a good front office and a good coach. It's like, well, okay, and like, then they think they're going to go to the Super Bowl. It's like, you're so stupid, and they're going to do it again next year. The Steelers are going to be in the exact same place next year. Probably Mason Rudolph's going to be the starter. Like, what? Why?
Focus on the
Cowboys. Either way, I got to the Steelers.
Yeah.
I got to the Steelers because I hate the Steelers. The Steelers. The Cowboys. This past game, though, listen, Dak Prescott had 400 passing yards. Dak Prescott threw the ball okay. He had some awful passes. Players dropped some balls. One of the picks were definitely not his fault, but it is awful. It's not good for, as a leader, Dak Prescott is not him. Shouldn't be deserving of money. They should be looking for a new quarterback. They should be looking for a new coach and all that. The defense tonight, whatever it was so bad. That was some of the worst defense I've ever. You're gonna allow Jordan Love, who puts up like 50 yards a game, and like, or not really, but he puts up the yards. No, but you're really gonna allow. It doesn't matter. You're gonna allow a guy that's the youngest team in the league, literally the youngest team versus we're the Cowboys. At home, we're going to lose at home. We don't lose at home, right? Cowboys. This is bad. This is just, I mean, I don't even know where to start with them. Like I said, clean house, everyone. Micah Parsons, trade him. Get like a first over. Trade him to the Bears for the first overall pick. I don't know. Do whatever. They got to start all over. Start from scratch. Start the whole thing from scratch. It is disaster over there.
Did you just propose a potential Bears first overall pick over here, Micah Parsons? That ain't happening. They literally tied what? They have $170 million guaranteed into Dak. That ain't going anywhere anytime soon. But anyway,
that's the issue. We're in another Tony Romo. In 20 years, in 12 years from now, not even, probably less, we're going to have Dak Prescott circling our screens on Fox. Okay? And look, Dak Prescott, he's so good at reading the plays. Because you're a Cowboy quarterback who couldn't get past the first round of the playoffs.
We got to mark this down and remind me in 10 years from now. Set your reminder on your phone, Meisty. Set it now.
That's true. Cowboys quarterback legacy, 10 to 12 years from now, he's an amazing analyst. And then the Packers quarterback legacy is in 16 years, he's going to be the quarterback of the Jets.
Making fun of himself how he couldn't win playoff games
Not
on the
Dak
broadcast.
It's not Dak Prescott's fault. It's really not even Dak Prescott's fault. I'm telling you, it's really not even his fault. He's just on the Cowboys. No, he's just on the Cowboys. And the Cowboys, it's like if you're on the Browns, you're just cursed. See, Dan Campbell, that's who the Cowboys began. They should be training Micah Parsons for Dan Campbell. Okay? So I don't even know what I'm saying, but they need a guy. They need a coach. They need a real coach. Not these Mike McCarthy's. They need a guy who's going to come in and change the entire, I don't want to say atmosphere, but the entire, like, the vibe, the whole team, everything needs to be changed. You have this, like, Jerry Jones running the team. Get a real GM. Get Bill Belichick in there if you have to.
Ooh.
Even though that's psycho, but, like, do it. Like, go get someone who's going to take over the whole team. No more Jerry Jones giving speeches to the team. None of that. Cut all of this out. What are we doing? What do you think you are, Jerry Jones? You're going to talk to the team before the coach talks to the team? What?
That is the thing with these
Ridiculous.
over-involved owners. We see it with Jerry. We see it with David Tepper now, who's trying to take on. Yeah, thank you, Feisty. We had to get you in.
Feisty's gone. Let's switch the format over here. Here we go. All right.
I knew we had to get Meisty and his Cowboys taken, so I'm glad that we were able to get that in. And we'll finish up the rest of the games. But
he won't be able to get a Steelers rant in. I know you had a good one for that.
I'll take one for the team. I can do that. Yeah.
All right. Sacrifice.
Yeah. Whatever. I'll twist my arm. And you see these owners. The one guy that can't get fired, is the owner because they can't fire themselves. So you have these over-involved owners, and Jerry Jones was successful in the 90s, but that was 30 years ago. And they literally have not been to an NFC Championship game in 29 years. So something's got to change. And I really do believe I've heard people say, if you keep McCarthy there and you send this message that you say you want to compete for a Super Bowl, but you keep McCarthy there, then you're sending a message that you're not about what you're saying. You're truly fine with winning 12 games and just go into the wild card round, go into the divisional round, and just losing, not truly competing.
Yeah, the thing is that I wonder if there's a pattern to this because it's hard to know. I think the Cowboys and the Dolphins are both in that spot where they have good quarterbacks that aren't good enough to put them over the top. And it's hard to know with teams like this, what is the problem? It's not that they're not good enough. It's not for a lack of talent. It's not they can't win games. But it comes to these moments in the playoffs. It's the old cliches. And for one reason or another, and we can't even explain it, they just fall apart against good teams in the playoffs and big moments. And what do you do with a team like that? You need big change. Change to what? You're gonna draft a quarterback number 1 overall? No. You're gonna draft a DB, high in top 10 to try to shore up the pass coverage. That's not the problem either, right? So I'm like, what is how do you even approach this? And that's something I've been grappling with the last couple of days with the Dolphins and Cowboys both, just collapsing down the stretch here. I mean, I don't get it. I mean, the Eagles, that's a whole different discussion we'll get to soon. I think that's a little bit of a different nuance, but the Dolphins and Cowboys are in very similar situations, and I don't really know where they go from here, and this is why I'm thankful I'm not a NFL GM.
Maybe it's a choice. You never know.
Right, could be.
No, really I think it's right here between the ears. It's all mindset and football. I love this game so much. Ultimate team sport, and it truly is such a mental game. Like they say, they say about baseball. So 90% of the game is physical, the other half is mental, right? That's what they say about baseball, but it's even more so. It's 90% of football is physical, and the whole other 100% is mental. But it's such a tough sport, such a tough physical game, and it's so one and done. Win and you're in. Win or go home. It's literally in 3 hours your entire season could be for nothing. So it's just so hard to stay locked in and stay focused in that moment. But that's why I love it so much, and that's why it can be really, truly mentally draining on people. But, Cowboys, we'll see next year. It may be the same old story, but I can tell you a team that is not the same old team, and that's the Lions, the Detroit
Detroit,
Lions.
Motown.
Yes, Motown. Eminem showed up. Entire Detroit showed up to Ford Field to watch them play their former savior, or I don't even know if there's their savior really, their former guy. Their dude, their man, Matthew Stafford. They booed him, which I thought was a little disrespectful. To be honest, like
I didn't even
I
know
know,
that. I didn't see that. I didn't see the opening. Interesting.
yeah. I mean, I appreciate that they were cheering for their guy. They were chanting Jared Goff, and cheering for him. And like, I love that, like the support. But like, I feel like booing Matthew Stafford is like that was a little disrespectful. Like he did all he could for you, and then you were happy for him when you won a Super Bowl. But I think really what they were trying to do by booing him, they're like, we're taking a stand. No, no feelings right now. We don't care, Matt. Like Jared Goff is our guy now. It's time to take you down. So I think that's what they were trying to do by sending that message. But they did it. They won a playoff game and they took him down. They took down Matthew Stafford, first win in like 30 plus years, and it was amazing to see. Rocky, what do you
Yeah,
think?
no, yeah. Listen, man. I mean, first of all, I love Dan Campbell. I've been saying this for the last few weeks as I've been watching a lot more coaches' press conferences, and you see the different
Nice.
why I've been doing it. I need to find a better way to spend my time, but but that's besides the point. And you look at the Mike Tomlins and the John Harbaughs and the Dan Campbells of the world compared to the Kyle Shanahans and the Mike McDaniels of the world, and they're all entertaining in their own ways. McDaniel's just freaking hilarious. I mean, quite frankly, he looks like a chiller dude over there, like millennial, just cracking jokes. And he looks like he's high, but he's not. He's extremely alert.
Yeah.
It's the funny. People make jokes about him smoking weed. He's extremely alert. Like, let's not kid ourselves here. But you have guys like, I think other than the head coaches that are offensive play callers, generally they're there to boost the morale of the team. And I think that's, you guys like John Harbaugh and Mike Tomlin, who now are the two longest tenured coaches in the league. And we'll get to Tomlin in a little bit here. But, the reason they're there for so long is because, for whatever reason, they're not only good coaches, they're good mentors. And that's a big part of your job as a coach. And Dan Campbell's obviously that. You see the emotion he brings to the game. And we talk about emotions all the time here, and we argue it out. Does it play a role in the game? Does it not? And I always say it's not something you can quantify. Me as an analytical person, you can't. But there's no question that is a big role in a coach. That is a big role that a coach plays. And Dan Campbell always does that. Like, guys need to be positive. Guys need to be together. You saw that in the Eagles game Sunday night, where they were not gathering to the football. Right when the ball is thrown, you run to the football. It's a very simple. You learn that when you're 10 years old, right? And they weren't doing that. And Dan Campbell definitely there's something about him. I don't know what it is. There's something about him. And he's also very good in-game situational game manager. So he's got the practical side of things down as well. And, something, Yehuda, that strikes me, and I want to get your thoughts on this. It's like, you look at a guy like Dan Campbell, and you think to yourself, he's going to be old-fashioned. He's going to punt a lot. He's not going to go for it on fourth downs. He's going to take a lot of field goals. And it's completely opposite. Nobody goes for it on fourth down more than Dan Campbell. What do you think that is? It's a guy that's an old-fashioned, hard-nosed guy like that, and he's the most advanced, analytically driven coach in the league this year. I mean, how do you think that comes about? I'm very curious about this, actually.
I think that's a really great point and something that I didn't really think about. But yeah, that's a great point. People think that he's old-fashioned because he played as, I think he was a tight end, and you think he's a meathead because he sounds like a guy who's, he's a football dude who's going to bite your ankles, who's going to bite your kneecaps, beat you up, and he sounds like a dude who's like 3 yards in a cloud of dust, and he plays 1940s football, but he really is a super analytical guy and super innovative guy, and like his OC Ben Johnson, I'm sure rubs off on him a lot. He's very innovative and is really, really talented and definitely going to be ahead.
Got Ben Johnson, yeah, good point.
And yeah, and he trusts the numbers, and I feel like he's such a good marriage of emotions and analytics. Like you said, you cannot quantify the emotions, and you can tell that he's a great emotional leader, and he has every single guy ready, it's a cliche, ready to run through a brick wall for him and for what he's doing, and for him to be so supportive of Jared Goff and of his team and his quarterback, his guy who was basically cast off as the Rams. The rest of the players can see that, and they really, really believed and bought into the identity that he is selling of, this is Detroit, this is the city, the city is down and nobody thinks we're good and we're lovable losers, but now we're winners and now we're winning playoff games. And then he marries all that emotional stuff and all that stuff that I just said and all the football goodness that you can't quantify with it's 4th and 4 at the 35-yard line. A field goal would be 53 yards, 54 yards. It's not worth it. Let's go for it. And I'm going to dial up an awesome play because Ben Johnson is awesome. and we're going to make we're going to continue to drive down the field, and we're not going to play scared, and we're going to play emotional, but we're also going to play smart. So it's just like the perfect blend of emotion and analytics.
Yeah, and 2nd and 7, it was less than 2 minutes left. Rams have one timeout. Conventional wisdom would dictate run the ball 3 times or 2 more times, right, and give him 30 seconds left. Goff drops back there and delivers, his old reliable Amon-Ra. You got to love that, the gutsiness of it. I love it. Not everyone did, but I absolutely loved it. And on the field, Stafford played great. I think Stafford's been playing really well all season. Puka Nacua is just, wow, that's going to be something, if they could actually, the Rams might have saved their franchise with Puka Nacua. And it sounds crazy to say, but that's literally how big it could be, right? They did not have a lot of high draft picks these last couple of years because of all they surrendered for Von Miller and Matthew Stafford and OBJ for that Super Bowl run. And as a result, they've had to find talent late in the draft. And that's, you can't get much better than what they've gotten from Puka Nacua this year. So if he continues to do that, Cooper Kupp still got some juice left in the tank. Maybe Matthew Stafford can go another couple of years. I think they could still be in the playoff hunt in the NFC for another couple of years. So Stafford played great. Goff was up and down. Overall, I think the Lions have enough playmakers to make a run here. Listen, they're going to play the Bucs next week. And, and they could easily find themselves one win away from the Super Bowl. Now, who's to say if they're going to be able to beat the Niners if the Niners make it there? Who knows about that? But at the end of the day, wow, Detroit's got to love this. They get another home game. Of course, they're going to be pumped to go out to the stadium. They're in divisional round. Divisional round's far in the playoffs. There's 8 teams left. You win this game, you're in the semis, right? That's pretty much the way it is. So you get to have a home game in the divisional round means, you've put yourself in that position. And the Lions have had a great season, and they get to cap it off. The home stretch of their season, most likely to cap it off here with divisional round against an opponent that's extremely beatable. So it's great. It's great. It's fun to see, man. You can't listen. We don't have any vested interest in the Lions Rams. We don't really care about who wins the game. But it was very nice to see a team like that tried so hard. This happened a couple years ago with the Browns, and as much as we're division rivals with the Browns, and it's like you still okay, it's so sad. It's so sad. They just year after year they've gone through 75 quarterbacks in the last 20 years, right? It's just so sad. And it's like to see the Baker come through and even beat the Steelers, so that was a little bit of a win-win. It was nice, and you sort of see that with Detroit. It's like, man, these guys, they've been getting progressively better every year, and here they are in the divisional round with a chance to go to the NFC Championship game. It's cool. It's a cool sight.
Yeah, exactly. And I just think I'm not giving the Packers that. I give them maybe a 5% chance, genuinely. Kyle Shanahan literally said he was already preparing for the Packers in the second quarter of the Cowboys game. So he has, obviously, he only has a week right now, but he was looking at all his potential opponents. And so now Kyle Shanahan off and bye, ready to prepare with these dudes who are healthy, and CMC hopefully healthy, and Tebow and Trent Williams, they are going to expose Joe Barry's defense. I think minimum they're getting four touchdowns and 2 field goals, minimum.
Oh yeah.
And maybe the Packers can keep up with them. We just saw them drop 48 on a really good defense, so maybe they can keep up with them. But I don't think they can do that to the Niners. But again, they are playing the game. Anything's possible. And what if we get a Lions-Packers NFC Championship game, and the Lions get to host their division rival? That would be insane. The amount of energy we saw for Lions Stafford, I think that was one of the highest energy games I've ever seen for a football game, and for the Lions hosting a playoff game, that was insane. That was awesome. That was so cool. And then imagine the Lions had a chance to go to the Super Bowl at home against their division rival, their big bad rival. That would be nuts. That would be really cool. But, we don't really give the Packers a chance. But anything's possible. But I'll talk about a team that did not really have a chance, and thought that giving themselves a whole extra day and calling the entire city of Buffalo soft because there were torrential wind and snow in Buffalo. They thought that they had a chance. The Steelers got bounced 31-17 in the playoffs in Buffalo. They wanted to blame the refs, blame the snow, blame anything, but themselves. But themselves playing poorly, starting Mason Rudolph, in a playoff game, Steelers, and then we saw Mike Tomlin walk off the presser when there's a reporter literally asking him, what's your status for the future, and he just walks off. So, Rocky, what do you think is Mike Tomlin's future with the Steelers?
So we got to show this clip first. Let's just give a couple seconds here and show this clip.
I thought he was solid. I thought he was competitive. I thought his confidence was unshakable. I thought he, displayed the things that he displayed really for the last month or so.
Anyone?
Mike, you have a year left on your contract.
I hope you can hear it because I can't hear it.
It never gets old. I've watched that clip so many times today, but it's just unbelievable. The crowd will be able to hear it. Everyone listening will be able to hear it and see it in fact in all of its glory. Listen,
I know.
Yeah.
Without even seeing it.
What did you say?
Said I know what it is without even seeing it.
Yeah,
obviously,
we've all watched it today, and yeah. I mean, let's get to Mike Tomlin first, then we'll backtrack to the Steelers on the field here. I mean, I don't think the like we talked about with Dan Campbell. What's the coach's job in a team? It's to boost the morale. That's been Tomlin's role there for the last nearly 2 decades. And, always had winning seasons. Listen, people are making fun of them today for, you always have winning seasons, but you haven't won a playoff game since 2016. That is valuable. In 17 years, to every single season, in the NFL, it is so difficult to be good every year. It is so difficult to be competitive every year. In the most competitive division in football, and the most competitive conference in football, it is so difficult. And I think a big reason is they somehow find a way to improvise with lesser talent. And I don't really know how. They find a way to find enough talent on defense, even outside of TJ Watt. Highsmith came through with an absolute breakout year this year. Joey Porter had a great year this year. They find talent on that end. They always have good receivers with Pickens and Deontay Johnson. When they started to get going, the run game started to get a boost over the last couple of weeks. So, they find talent in random places. Mason Rudolph all of a sudden had a thing. And I think a big reason to that is, obviously it's Mike Tomlin and everything else involved in that organization. So they're never, I have a friend, he likes to call them they're cockroaches. They just never die. They never die. Yeah. They're always right there. You know what I'm saying? They'll die eventually, but they never die. They'll never win, but they never die. And that's the Steelers. And, I don't think Mike Tomlin's going anywhere. Granted, I do, I think give it another couple of years, he'll probably want to retire or part ways or something, but he loves being the coach of this team. He loves it, and he lives it, and it's his whole life. It's been his life for nearly 20 years now. I don't think he's going anywhere, and, I do think the Steelers need to go in a different direction, though. Like, you mentioned last week, Yehuda, what's their plan? And I agree with you. I don't think it's Mike Tomlin's fault. He's not the GM, and I could see him staying out of those things. It's very classic Mike Tomlin. Like, I'm going to leave that up to Mr. Rooney, and I could totally see that being the case, right? But at the same time, Mason Rudolph played fine. Pickett had stretches over the last couple of years where he's looked fine, but you got to have a better plan than this. And you have the 20th pick in the draft, so you're going to wait for Penix? He's not going to drop that far probably after his performance in the college playoff. So Bo Nix, is that the other guy they're looking at, right? So
Oregon, yeah.
So I don't know if any of those guys are going to drop. So at the end of the day, what's your next plan? Is to trade for Justin Fields, to trade for Russell Wilson? I just don't know where you're going with this. You need to get a quarterback. If you don't have a quarterback, you have a talented team. It's not like they have a bad roster. There's a reason they were 10-7 this year. But you need a plan for the future. And granted, winning seasons are valuable. Winning seasons show that, wow, this is a well-coached team, a team with some talent, and a team that knows how to win games. Fine. And all the cliches that you can put out there. And they're all obviously true. But at the end of the day, you're not going to win a Super Bowl with this team. You can't even win a playoff game with this team in the last 8 years. You drag Big Ben's career out for too long. Big Ben is one of the best quarterbacks I've ever watched in my lifetime. We both, just saw him tear defenses to shreds with his mobility in the pocket, with his ability to extend plays, how difficult it was to take him down, his ability to make accurate throws on the run. There are a few players I've seen in my lifetime, throw a deep ball more accurately on the run than Big Ben. But at the end of the day, they extended his career too long. The last few years, he wasn't Big Ben anymore. His arm strength dwindled. It wasn't the same thing. These last couple of years, they didn't have a good replacement plan for him, and it showed. And the Steelers need a plan. They need a plan, and they don't have it right now.
I got to tell you, while I'm watching that game, I was getting so frustrated. I literally was ranting at my wife watching the game together. I gave her the entire spiel that I did last pod and like in the preview. Literally was so mad explaining that like you said, of course it's valuable to be good. It's so hard. The NFL, we're going to get to the Eagles collapse, but they literally were inches away from winning the Super Bowl last year. And now we're talking about firing their coach. Like, the NFL is a week-to-week league. What have you done for me lately? It changes so fast. The windows close so fast. And there's value to being around every year. But we know the formula for the league right now is a quarterback-driven league, and you need a quarterback. And all they do is win these games that they're not supposed to win, and then they lose all the games when they play down competition. They lost the Cardinals and the Patriots, and they literally could have been fighting for the division. If they win those games, they could be fighting for the division. They could have been fighting for the 1 seed, but they're always just good enough to succeed, to sneak into the playoffs as a 7 seed, but not good enough to win an actual Super Bowl and actually compete and really, really, truly compete. But they're not bad enough to be in the top 5 and pick one of these franchise-changing quarterbacks. And like, they're a cockroach. Sure, it's great. Wow, you won not 9 games. You won 10 games, and you snuck into the playoffs to get blown out by Buffalo, to get blown up by Kansas City. And if I was a Steelers fan, I would literally be like losing my mind, because you're stuck in a hamster wheel of 10 wins every single year. And the problem is, there are some rational Steelers fans, but then they're genuinely the Steelers fans who believe that they could have won the game, and then we own the Ravens because we swept them this year, so we would have beat the Ravens, and then we would have gone to AFC, the championship round, and then we would play like the Chiefs or the Bills and or the Chiefs or the Texans, and like, who knows what could happen. Like, they genuinely believe that they can play for a Super Bowl if the refs didn't screw them over a little bit. And maybe there were some questionable calls, but like the George Pickens play on 4th down, you're down 2 touchdowns. It was still 31-17. And like, you're still at to drive down the field. Like, that wasn't like, it was a 3-point game, and that was a no call on the pass interference there. So like, there are some genuinely delusional Steelers fans who believe that you just keep going through this. And that's why I was getting mad. And I'm not even a Steelers fan. And then I had to bring it all back and realize, like, this is wonderful. As a Ravens fan, of course. As my bias, this is wonderful. And like, what, they have no plan. And they, in addition to not having a plan and extending Ben Roethlisberger's career too long, like you said, that's the issue with Tomlin, is that he's a player's coach and he lets the players go a little too far. And they could never beat New England. I think this genuinely all began from when AB was live streaming their
AB live.
Remember that?
We're getting there.
He was live streaming their win after they beat the Chiefs, and they're about to go to New England. And Tom was talking about those B words up in Boston, and they got blown out by the Patriots. He can't beat Belichick. He's a good coach, I'll say, but he literally, the 2 Super Bowl years, 08 and 2010, they did not have to face Belichick, because 2010 the Ravens knocked off the Patriots, so the Steelers didn't have to play them. And then 2008, Patriots missed the playoffs because Brady had a knee injury. So when he won the Super Bowl, he took advantage. So that is good coaching for sure. He took advantage of of no Brady, no Belichick, and they won the Super Bowl. So it's a pretty good job taking advantage of it. But like he could never beat Belichick, and like this record of not winning, of not having a losing season, like it's great, but like they literally haven't won a playoff game since 2016, and they were looking past the Jaguars in 2016 because that was the year after. They're like, oh, we're gonna beat the Jags and then we're gonna meet the Patriots again in the AFC Championship game. Well, they're looking past him, and then they lose at home to Jacksonville. They extend Ben's career too long, and he plays like average. And then they had that 11-0 year in 2020 when everyone could tell that they were fraudulent. And then they collapse in a similar collapse to the Philadelphia Eagles that we're about to discuss. I keep teasing that. And like it's just over and over and over and over and over and over again. And like that's why I say like there's got to be a change. And now you're hearing these rumors about him 1 year left and what's your contract? And like the Steelers literally, they almost had a mutiny this year, right? They almost had to, the entire locker room was turning on Mike Tomlin to finally get him to fire Matt Canada, to fire a coach midseason, which they hadn't done in 30, 40 years. Like just offense and like it's very frustrating as a non-Steelers fan, so I can't imagine what it's like as a Steelers fan. So from one frustrating team in Pennsylvania to the next, we go to the Philadelphia Eagles, and they check off complete, collapse complete, and finished the job from 10-1 to 11-6. 10-1, the number one seed in the NFC, to 11-6, not even winning your division, and only getting a wild card, to completely no showing in the playoffs. Taking the term tackle football as optional and thinking they're at the Pro Bowl and that it's still two-hand touch and just not tackling. No passion, no inspiration, no drive, no will to win, like genuinely no will to win, and just a full quit job that really makes you question, Rocky, are we going to lose two coaches in the NFC East who just led their teams to double-digit wins for the past 2 or 3 years? I mean, Sirianni had 9 wins in 3 years ago in 2021. But basically double-digit wins for 3 years in a row, and both of them could be fired. Is he losing his job?
Right. It's a crazy thing to think about. I mean, you know, if you watch the Manning cast last night, you can see the frustration on Ray Lewis's face. Yeah. Talking about, you know, you got to play as a unit. You're playing cups. He was going nuts about that. I love Ray Lewis. It's so funny. I love it. Right when I saw Ray Lewis on the Manning cast, I'm like, I have to do whatever I could to watch the second half. Like, you know, he's must-see TV, so he's awesome. But yeah, he was just so frustrated by it. And Peyton and Eli are frustrated by the fact that, you know, outside of a couple Devontae Smith, you know, big plays, it's like they can't get the running game going, they can't get the passing game going. It's like the tush push doesn't even work all of a sudden. What is happening in Philly, right?
I thought that was poetic. I really thought that was poetic. Just truly show, like, that was like the perfect play. That was art. Like, genuinely, I thought that was art to show the full collapse. The tush push isn't even working.
Yeah, no, and the thing is, by the way, people were good. They were down by 7. That play, once you get the offsides, you go for it 10 times out of 10. That play is automatic as far as I'm concerned. The fact that they didn't get it does not negate the decision, okay? I'm just putting that out there. Like, it's an automatic extra point as far as they're concerned. It never fails. Apparently, Vita Vea is the only one that can prevent such a thing from happening, which great job. He's been a great player his entire career, but, you know, nobody knew he could stop the tush push. That we weren't quite sure about. But there's a couple of things here. I mean, number one, you know, I went out last week on a rant about the Jaguars, one of the biggest collapses I've seen in a long time. The Eagles completed it this week. Just as bad. Losing 6 out of the last 7. A team that, you know, we're looking at him last year, and one of the best teams in football all around, retained James Bradbury and Darius Slay, I've discussed many times throughout the offseason and throughout the season. I mean, you got Jalen Carter, you got Josh Sweat, you got talent all around this defense, right? And you start off 10-1. The Eagles are sitting there 10-1. We're 12 weeks into the season. This is not like, you know, a few games in and you're 5-0. There's 5 games left, and they have the number 1 seed. All they got to do is beat the Niners and win like one other game, and they have the number 1 seed. That was literally that was the position they were in, right? And they couldn't win another game practically, except for squeak one out against the Giants, which they barely won as well. So it was an absolute. They looked like a completely different team. Throughout the beginning of the season, we all voiced our concerns about the Eagles. They don't quite look as explosive on offense, and that came back to bite them in a big way. And you can't really explain it. There's a lot of talent on this team. It's a great roster. Jalen Hurts played pretty well this year as well. A.J. Brown was one of the best receivers in football from week 1 till week 18. But that being said, something did not come together in Philly, and I can't really explain it. I don't know if it's going to lead to Nick Sirianni's firing, as you say. I don't think they're going to jump straight to that. They just made the Super Bowl last year. They were inches away from winning the Super Bowl last year. I think Philly fans had expectations that this team was going to be, competitive for a Super Bowl every single year for the next 5 years, right? That was the expectation. So I don't think that changes from 1 year. You made the playoffs. Yes, you collapsed, but you made the playoffs. I think you got to give him another chance. McCarthy is a whole different discussion. I don't even want to touch that because I really don't know what's going to happen there. But Jerry Jones is unpredictable. But at the end of the day, I don't think Sirianni's going to get fired. But, I don't know what happened. This is clearly something that's unquantifiable. This is not a lack of talent. This is not a lack of on-field play. A.J. Brown was the second to best receiver in the league this year by far behind Tyreek Hill. It wasn't even close. He was top 5 in receptions. He was top 5 in receiving yards. He was top 5 in targets. He was top 5 in everything, right? So average depth of target. I mean, you want to go to every advanced metrics. I mean, he was top 5 in everything. So this was not. And Devontae Smith had over 1,000 yards this year and 16th in the league in receptions. So this is a team with a lot of talent. Whatever it was, you got to figure that out and you got to fix it because this was not okay. This was just not okay. I mean, Baker Mayfield came in. Well, I mean, we do have to flip sides here because I do want to talk about the Bucs for a second here. But, this was more the Eagles collapse than the Bucs. Granted, Bucs took advantage. Credit where credit's due. But I think the Bucs just got handed a playoff victory here in the first round, Yehuda. That's what I think.
Yeah. It was honestly great call by you. Like the Cowboys, you said, Packers are kind of hot right now. Like, I don't know if you want to win the division. Like, play the Bucs. And that might be an easier matchup. And I think the Eagles would have gotten whooped by the Packers also. But the Cowboys probably could have beat the Bucs. The Bucs played great last night, and Baker Mayfield was dicing them up. But honestly, like I genuinely might be able to catch a pass and run for about 10, 15 yards on the Eagles defense the way they were tackling last night. Like that was genuinely embarrassing. And it just looks like it's putting on the coach. And I think that speaks to Matt Patricia not being a good coach, not being a good coordinator. And I think that was a panic move, switching to Patricia. But the reason you fire Sirianni or Jeffrey Lurie, that the owner thinks about it, is because he is known to be like a hot ticket, not a hot ticket, or like a little bit of a hot-tempered owner. Not like he's wild and crazy or anything, but sometimes he'll just do snap judgments. Like they built a statue of Nick Foles and Doug Peterson, right? That man won you a Super Bowl the first time ever in your history, right? First championship in since the 40s for the Eagles. And they fired him a year or two later. And you didn't even give him a chance to rebuild. You could have just cut Wentz and moved on from Wentz and try to let Peterson work through the issues and work through the rebuild, but no, they just fired him, even though he won them a Super Bowl. And like I said, they literally built him a statue. That's how much he meant to the team. And, not to talk about how good of a coach Doug Peterson is, but sometimes they do some snap judgments. And we saw the team went to the Super Bowl, they almost won the Super Bowl, and then both their coordinators leave. And Gannon and the D coach, the D coordinator, goes to Arizona, and he had a shaky start, but then some solid games to end the season, and maybe they're building something. And then Steichen, for sure, we see was maybe carrying Sirianni, because Sirianni was calling plays and the offense was struggling in 2021, and then Steichen took over 2022, and then they go to the Super Bowl and they're the unstoppable offense, and now this year they didn't use motion. They just run the same stuff over and over. They're running this spread offense that I heard Greg Olson talking about today. And it just doesn't help, you don't have enough protection for Jalen Hurts because you have spread offense. You have these guys spread out the entire time. And so they just blitz him over and over and over and over. And he was one of the worst quarterbacks in the league. I think he was bottom 10 against the blitz, Jalen Hurts. And Todd Bowles loves to blitz. And so you don't change up your plan. You just do the same thing over and over and over. It's like definition of insanity. And you don't even have A.J. Brown to go win on the outside now. So you have much worse receivers. And you don't keep anyone in to protect Jalen Hurts. And every single play he's running for his life. And like, even against this awesome offensive line, they can't block 6 guys. It's still 5 guys. Can't block 6 guys. They're always blitzing. And like, they're so rigid. And that's the thing, is like, he's not calling plays. When he does, he's actively making it worse. And and Jason Kelsey's retiring. Like, your team is aging. And like, that was the way that Jason Kelsey goes out. Like, that really sucks for him. And like, I loved what he did for their initial Super Bowl team, and like, he was always be a legend for that. But like, it's very frustrating for Eagles fans, and you never know, like, if Belichick's available, like, you might want to talk to them, and I'm sure Belichick could do wonders for the roster. Like, Belichick as a talent builder, like as the GM, not the best. He's solid on defense, not really great on offense. So if you give him all the great offensive players already, then he'll do some great things. But yeah, like talking again about the Bucs, back to the Bucs, like, they're playing great, they played hot. They took advantage of what was in front of them, and now let's see if you can beat the Lions. I don't really give them a chance to beat the Lions, but whatever. Baker, you're in the second round. You could try to move past the divisional round. That'd be cool. And now let's see you do it on the road. So good job, Tampa. You took advantage of what was in front of you, and you won a playoff game, so that's cool.
My first thought was, after the Baker is going on to the divisional round, right? It's a crazy thing. It's like the Browns literally signed a guy for $230 million and traded away 1 million draft picks, only for them to lose in the first round, and for the guy they got rid of to get to the divisional round, right? This is making the Browns look even worse. Not only that, the only reason the Browns made the playoffs was because of a 38-year-old they got off the street, right? They signed him to the veteran minimum.
And they lost to the team that they made that massive trade with, and the reason they lost was because of all the picks that the Texans made with all the picks.
Right. That's right. That's exactly right. That's a great point as well. All the worst case scenario for the Browns.
Yes.
They have improvised in that they've constructed the best defense in football. Kevin Stefanski's done a great job with offensive play calling all year. He's found a way to win with 4 different quarterbacks this year. So that's been awesome. But, you could have done it anyway, it sort of seems, right? Without trading away all those guys. Just keep Baker. I mean, like, I don't know what you needed to get yourself Deshaun Watson for at this point. That it just comes to get, just looks worse and worse all the time. And like you said, and the Texans are better off for it, right? I mean, crazy to think. I mean, we'll have to get to the Texans more, of course, but it's crazy to think that a little over a year ago at this time, we're thinking the Texans just screwed themselves over. Man, they scored that touchdown, 2-point conversion to win that game against Indy. Can't believe it. Here we are a year later. C.J. Stroud is like, it's destroying the Browns in the first round of playoffs. They're 10-7. They win the AFC South in his first season. I mean, it's just unbelievable. They got Tank Dell. They drafted him in the draft this year as well. So it's just like it's been unbelievable to see what's happened there in Houston. But just wow, what a shove over there in Cleveland's face. And Baker's tough. Listen, he's been playing fine this year. He can still make big throws. He's a very volatile player, extremely volatile player. And you never know what you're going to get from him. It's fun to watch him. He runs around in the pocket a lot. He can extend plays. He can make a lot of throws. He's a fun player to watch, but it's too inconsistent. I also can't see. But listen, they have a chance. If they would have they're going up against the Lions team that's extremely beatable. The Lions have some bad losses this year. So if they're going up against the Cowboys, even without the Cowboys struggle, say on paper it's probably not a great matchup. Like as we saw a couple of years ago, the Bucs did go up against the Cowboys and they got blown out. But they have a chance. It's crazy to think that Baker could be in the NFC Championship game.
That's wild.
That's a crazy thing. And the Bucs this year, they were supposed to win 4 games this year. I mean, it's a crazy storyline. It is,
Yeah, good for them. And you never know with this. We're just talking about all the blitzing that they did on Jalen Hurts. Jared Goff's, he might not be great against the blitz, and sometimes he has the tendency to get a little nervous in the pocket. So maybe you can force him into some mistakes, and then the Lions defense isn't great. You get Mike Evans and Godwin, and now even David Moore out of nowhere. This guy, David Moore and Trey Palmer, maybe they can come and make some plays. But I'm glad that we're able to focus on the Bucs because, a lot of people are focusing on the Eagles collapse, and we're talking about the Bucs. So me personally, I think this is on me. I was focusing on the Steelers collapse.
The Bills.
Or
the Bills.
Yeah, we forgot about the team that won.
Right.
So I wanted to talk with you real quick about the Bills and their game upcoming with the Chiefs. In a few minutes, I heard this on TV, and I was thinking about it as well. It's like, for Josh Allen, if not now, when? Like, you beat Patrick Mahomes in the regular season twice. You're 0-2 in the playoffs against him. They literally changed the rules for you because you guys were complaining that you didn't get a chance to get the ball. Granted, they played amazing. The Bills played amazing, and the defense just Josh Allen and the offense played amazing. Defense just gave it up. But this is it. Okay, you're at home now. Okay, Patrick Mahomes has to go on the road, literally the first time in his career. Besides for the Super Bowls, which are neutral site, but literally the first time in his career that he's playing a playoff game on the road, and it's going to be cold. It's going to be lake effect, snow still from last week. The Chiefs are not the Chiefs of old. They are winning with defense, and Patrick Mahomes is basically the best game manager of all time. He's playing as a game manager who can make some plays here and there with one good receiver and an aging tight end, and the rest of the the Harlem Globetrotters or like the Washington Generals, these dudes who are just out there like clowning around. What are they doing? They're dropping balls, like literally playing for the other team. I don't know. But Bills, this is it. You got to win this game. Like, this will be a huge, genuinely, this is like a Brady Manning type situation where Manning, eventually he finally won and he beat Brady, and he had a huge comeback against Brady in 2006 and then won the Super Bowl. And so that was his big moment, but it took him 8 years to do that. And Josh Allen, I hope for your sake, I hope Patrick Mahomes isn't your Brady, because it's now or never, Rocky. Like, this is it.
Yeah, well, listen, we have been saying this is it for the Bills for a while now, and I sort of felt like halfway through the season that it was it for the Bills, right? They were sitting there at 6-6. They pretty much had to win every game for the remainder of the season, but they did just that. Because that's how good they are, And I was consistent with my opinion throughout the season. I didn't care what the Bills' record was. I said this is the most dangerous team in the AFC outside of the Ravens right now. And I stand with that. The most important factor in this game, we'll discuss it more, obviously, the Brady Manning narrative is just going all around social media. It's ridiculous. It's not Brady Manning, it's Allen Mahomes. That's it. It's very different. It's a very different type of matchup. But it is a similar, they're extremely different prototypes. It's just not even, you know what I'm saying? And the offenses are just completely different designed offenses. But in terms of every year, these guys need to play each other in the playoffs every single year, right? Now, yes, every year. And here we go. Sunday Night Football, exactly how the NFL wanted it to happen. You can have Nance and Romo, 6:30. The Steelers winning would have messed over all the NFL's plans. The Bills win. It perfectly. Stroud against Lamar, put that 4:30. Perfect. You got the Niners Saturday night. West Coast works out well with the timing. This is just perfect. Yeah, put the Lions, Bucs, 12, 3 p.m., whatever on Sunday. 6:30, you got the Mahomes Sunday night to cap off. This is perfect for the NFL. Exactly what they wanted. Maybe they even delayed the game on purpose so that they'd be able to set it up like this. I'm just saying. I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Anyway, point being that this is exactly what the NFL wanted. Mahomes, I'm very excited for it. I hope we can watch it from a vantage point of who's coming to Baltimore next week, right? That would be fun. Could you imagine the entire game? They're just like, earn the right for a trip to Baltimore the entire time. That's right. That's the entire game. So hopefully we'll be able to play that out. But anyway, yeah, this is, we're all looking forward to this. We'll dive into the matchups. We'll dive into everything more a little later. But, just to touch on it now, it's like, the Chiefs are not the same Chiefs. They have to improvise. Kelsey has clearly lost a step this season. First time in his career that he's had less than 1,000 yards receiving. And, Rashee Rice has come on as of late. I mentioned that many times. But Sky Moore has not worked out. MVS has not worked out. That experiment did not work out. Even in the same light that Juju Smith-Schuster did last year. MVS has been a step down from that this year. I thought it would be a parallel move, but it hasn't been. He's been a step down from that. The Kadarius Toney experiment hasn't worked out. So They have Rashee Rice and Travis Kelce. The Bills are opening at 2.5-point favorites at home. I'm a little shocked about that. The Chiefs have a great defense. Number 7 in DVOA you mentioned last week. Great defense. But
Number 5 now.
they're number 5 now after if you account for the playoff win. So, but at the end of the day, Josh Allen has a way of winning in so many different ways, right? Stephon Diggs on that back shoulder, you just can't stop it. You're gonna try to blitz him. He responds well to the blitz. You're gonna try to suffocate him in the pocket. He can't do that either. So it's like, him and Lamar Jackson are very similar players to watch. They're very similar in the way that the play breaks down and they can still gain some positive yardage. Mahomes has that, but it's different. It's different with Mahomes. It's crazy throws. It's great vision down the field. It's keeping the play alive. Allen, it's like extending plays, not just keeping plays alive. It's creating. It's not just extending plays so you can throw the ball out of bounds and avoid a sack. It's extending plays so you can run the ball for 10, 15 yards, or wait till Gabe Davis breaks open 15 yards down the field. So it's going to be such a fun matchup, and I'm surprised about the 2.5-point line. I think the Bills should certainly be favorites in this game. Just opening thoughts, definitely. Yeah, I would say 4.5 probably if I were making a line. I think they have respect for Mahomes, and fine. I mean, I hear Mahomes. That's what it is. It's a Mahomes line, but that means that in a neutral site, the Chiefs would be getting a 0.5 point. I don't see that this year. I think the Bills are far superior. Maybe the Bills did suffer a bunch of injuries against the Steelers. Another reason why it's huge to get the bye, because when it gets to the playoffs, it's not a matter of if you'll get injuries. It's a matter of who will get injured and how many injuries will you have. Because at this point in the season, everyone's beat up, right? So someone's going to get a serious injury. You just hope that it's not players at important positions. You hope nobody gets injured, but it's almost inevitable, right? So, yeah, they're banged up. They are. They're banged up on the defensive side. But, I can't see this as like a Mahomes-Allen duel like it was a couple of years ago. Like this, it doesn't seem like we're heading toward that again. It seems like we're heading more toward a more methodical type of game, less of a high flying. You don't have Tyreek Hill in there anymore. You don't have the high flying Chiefs offense anymore. The Bills are never a particularly high flying offense. So, I don't see that. I think it's a different style game this year. That's what I think.
I mean, that you could argue, obviously huge plays are very exciting, but you could argue that makes it even more exciting and more impactful because you can't necessarily flip the game on one play. And so you got to work and you build up all this anticipation of these 7-yard outs, and you get 7 yards here, a 6-yard run here, and you got to work for it. You got to grind for it. And 35-31 is a very exciting game. 46 or 42-36, whatever it was, very exciting. But 28-24, 21-17, 24-21, that's still an awesome game and a very exciting game. And I think we're going to get another classic. And we'll discuss it more in our preview pod, but I'm glad we were able to get a little discussion about the Bills and of Super Wild Card Weekend. But it will be divisional round, always the best round of the year. We talk about it; it's the best round of the NFL season, and we're really looking forward. And we'll get our preview pod and our more in-depth thoughts about those games coming up. So like and follow and listen to the pod wherever you get your podcasts, and on Spotify, on YouTube. Subscribe. Rocky's rocking those shorts and the YouTube shorts and the TikTok shorts. We're getting those out. And
always strong on those.
Oh yeah, love to see you watching and commenting, and we'll get into discussions. So thank you guys for listening, and looking forward to our divisional round preview. Have a great day.